Folks, welcome back to the battlefields of Total War Warhammer 2, where we're going to dive right into an FFA, which I think you all are going to enjoy. The ending may not be what you expect, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to have two Skaven players in this FFA, as well as a Druchi and a Vampire Count player. So we're going to start with one of the Skaven players here. This is actually the one who submitted this with Sith Desert Fox. Desert Fox has been a part of my channel for a long time, so appreciate him submitting this one and appreciate having him around in the Discord community. So he's going to be rocking QUEEK Headtaker, so I think he should win the battle just, on its face for bringing QUEEK Headtaker, which, that takes a lot of courage in an age of Ikit Claw and Skrulk and, well, pretty much every other Skaven lord besides Dredge. Take that, QUEEK. Yeah, making fun of you. Anyway, no, that takes a lot of courage. QUEEK is not horrible in melee. In fact, in the right situations, he's pretty decent. It's just you don't see him as a pick very often. We got an assassin here supporting him, which does have some important debuffs I think you all need to remember here, which is Rival Hide Talisman and Assassin's Trophy. Both of these are a very good way at helping QUEEK overcome some of the odds that he's going to have to overcome. There is a Plague Priest here. It's got Pestilent Birth, which is going to be summoning Clan Rats, and then Plague and Vermintide. Or sorry, I think this is the one that summons Clan Rats, and Pestilent Birth is going to summon Plague Monks. So a lot of summons on the Plague Priest. And then there's going to be 4 Rat Ogres supporting in a rear line here, a couple of Plague Monks in the back with a Doom Flayer, and then a front line of Skaven Slave Spears to help ward off charges, and then there's going to be Clan Rats behind them. So it's an interesting Skaven army, a lot of chaff it has to. The damage-dealing component is mostly in the Rat Ogres and the Magic. And then we've also got this Ishka's Triad here for a bit of specialty support. If you use the decoy right, the decoy can really help save units from big charges, so it's very, very important ability to use properly. And then Plague Monks can definitely do a little bit of damage against low armor, and then Doom Flayers are, of course, very good even against armor in an anti-infantry type of fight. Now, across from him is going to be Azulas here, controlling the Druchi. They are going to be led by a Supreme Sorceress of Fire, and I do believe that Azulas here has gone with an entirely biological female Druchi build. It is going to be all ladies here. So he's got a front line of Sisters of Slaughter, which are very expensive, but against low armor, Sisters of Slaughter are just brutal. I mean, they are very, very good. They don't have hardly any armor themselves, which can be a bit of a drawback. They do have decent physical resistance, but I mean, they just do massive damage to unarmored units. They're supported by a couple of Death Hags. These unhappy, or I say unhappy, actually they're probably quite happy in what they do. These slightly angry, but bloodlust filled ladies of the Druchi are very good against infantry. You can see there that they got poison melee attack, so it's going to be a nice support to the army to debuff. And then in the second line here, we've got Witch Elves, including the Sisters of the Singing Doom. So much anti-infantry potential in this army that it's insane. And then the Witch Elves can berserk things. And to put that icing on the cake here, we got a Supreme Sorceress, Lore of Fire, with the Burning Head and a Fireball, as well as the Arcane Conduit. So the Druchi are definitely set up to rip through Skaven armies. And Vampires are the other one here. So honestly, their pick for the Druchi makes a whole lot of sense. Now, on this side for the Skaven, we do have Ikit Zap Zap, and it is set up for some very sneaky shooting here, which is meant to kind of sideswipe opponents that they're not directly facing off against. So I kind of like that sneaky Skaven stuff. Plus, they have the Death Squad and some other Death Runners out here on the little island in the middle of the river crossing point. Maybe hoping again for some sneak stab, yes. And as for the rest of this Skaven army, there's going to be a number of Skaven slaves operating as chaff. They are helping to protect some Rattling guns and Poison Wind mortars, including, the Avalanche mortars and some Poison Wind mortars. And then Skaven Slave Slingers. The leadership core here is Deathmaster Snikch, an Eshin Sorcerer, and an Assassin. So between the Assassin and Deathmaster Snikch, that is a pretty potent combination. And then the Eshin Sorcerer does have Toxic Rain, Warp Stars, Black Whirlwind, and Concealment Bombs. I would like to have seen Brittle Bone there, because you combine that with the others, and it just really makes that Death Squad literally a Death Squad. I mean, it is some serious trouble when you get into it. Yeah, so a couple Rattling guns to do some of the main damage there. Now, they are going to be up against the Vampires, and the Vampires are well equipped to slow down a rush. They have Vladdy Daddy von Karstein. He's going to be a difficult target for Skaven artillery. And so a pretty solid pick here because it will be difficult for the Skaven to pick him off from range. And then we're going to have a line of skeleton warriors shielding a couple of Graveguard. And then they are supported by 2 units of Blood Knights, which the Skaven are really not going to like to fight. And then on top of that, there's several units of Vargheist. Actually, I think it's 4. No, sorry, 3 units of Vargheist. I was right with my several pronunciation the first time. So Vargheist, what do? They do massive weapon damage, or weapon strength, I guess, in this case. So again, if they're up against a low armored target, they're going to do tremendous damage while being somewhat squishy themselves in return. But on the charge and afterwards, these Vargheist can do a lot of damage to unarmored units. So that pretty much gives us a rundown of the battlefield. Let's hit play and kind of see how this one is going to play out. Obviously, the vampires are going to be, I mean, they're vampires. They're not Vampire Coast, of course. They're going to be rushing the crap out of the Skaven. You can see over here that the vampires had a couple of dire wolves Vanguard deployed as well, and they are immediately running in behind the Skaven. So this is a great play so far by the vampires. You can see they really want to get to that Ikit Zap Zap, and a Skaven Slave can only protect it momentarily from these dire wolves. The dire wolves will cut through Skaven Slaves if they're given time. You can see that happening relatively quick. So this could potentially be a loss of the Zap Zap, but you can see that a nice reaction here from the Skaven player in getting the Rattling Guns into position and trying to save the Zap Zap. So there you can see the dire wolves. Leadership is struggling, but they're still potentially going to get the work done here. Now on the other side, I'll actually come back to this other side. I want you all to see that. Let's focus here. I know some of you don't like it when I split the battles like that, but I will come back to the other side and show you all what's happening over there, because I think it's important to catch the charge, and it becomes a kind of a topic of conversation, I think, for this battle that's going to be pretty interesting. So nice job by the dire wolves. Look at the chaos they're causing in the Skaven lines. It is some significant chaos, and I don't mean like Archaon type chaos. Just chaos in the sense of making it difficult for the player to know what to do. Now the Rattling Guns are going to get off some initial volleys. Unfortunately for them, though, they're only firing at Skeleton Warriors. The real target of opportunity would have been the Blood Knights, but the Blood Knights are being kept out of range intentionally while the rush develops. You can see that the mortars are opening fire on the Skeletons and the Graveguards, but they're going to immediately get in some big trouble here. The Vargheist just come in and absolutely shut down a Rattling Gun, and then the dire wolves back here are getting well more than their money's worth. You can see they're already over a chevron, and this Skaven army is in big trouble. They get hit by a Wind of Death here. It's not a major hit, but it's still a pretty solid hit, and too many skirmishers is the story of a boy here with his Skaven army, and Rizuri and his vampire counts are just slicing their way through the Skaven position on this hill. There just wasn't enough here to hold back the vampire rush. He certainly had a lot of damage-dealing range components, but no way to keep them operating for long enough to stop this. And this can be a tricky strategy for the Skaven to pull off against an undead faction, because the undead don't rout like a normal faction might when they start taking heavy damage from artillery or missiles, basically. So although Snikch and his assassin and the sorcerer can cause a lot of damage, in the end they can end up being overwhelmed, kind of like they are here. And again, not really high armor, and so Snikch and his sorcerer and his assassin are all going to find themselves kind of at the mercy of these Vargheists. They're going to be getting punted around a lot. It's not good. And then couple that with the fact that they have to try and deal with Vlad, who is very tanky. Now, I do believe that Snikch, his sorcerer, and his assassin, given the right scenario, could absolutely deal with Vlad. Some of the few characters that can debuff him significantly enough to do it. But, you know, with all this going on, the Skaven are in some big duty over here, and you can see that their leadership, in fact, did not hold together. So I'm going to cut out and swing back to the other side of the battle and kind of show you all what happened here, because at this point I think you all can see that Rizuri and his vampires are going to roll up this side of the battle. Alright, on the other side of the battle, Azulus and Sith Desert Fox prepare to face off, and this army is an interesting one for the Druchi. It is extremely squishy. But given the right scenario, this army can cause tremendous damage to the Skaven. If the Skaven had come with a Hell Pit Abomination or a lot of Doomflayers, yeah, this army's probably in trouble. And honestly, what the Sisters and the Witch Elves are going to have to contend with, there'll still be a pretty big challenge because there's a lot of Rat Ogres here, and Rat Ogres cause some pretty intense damage, and Sisters of Slaughter really are not good against large targets. You can see here that the Sisters are going to collide, the Witch Elves are going to come in to reinforce, and the Skaven are going to get the fight of a lifetime here from the Druchi. See, initially there's going to be some debuffing, but watch this play right here by the Supreme Sorceress. Just a beautiful burning head, and it is going to kill, you know, just over 100 Skaven at least. It just rips through multiple Skaven positions here. It is very well played. You can see that the Ishka's Triads there just gets absolutely decimated early in this fight, and the Druchi get off to a very strong start. But, I mean, Sith Desert Fox is causing almost as much damage back because of his Rat Ogres. It's just that it's kind of like a trade right now. The Sisters are slaughtering so many Skaven slaves and so quickly that even though Desert Fox is getting a lot of kills on these relatively expensive units with his Rat Ogres, it's kind of like a race right now to see who can get the most points and to see who's going to be able to survive this fight. Now, Queek Headtaker, his Plague Priest, and his Assassin are going to be difficult to kill quickly because the Supreme Sorceress is not a melee combatant per se. She is going to sit back and support with her fire damage, and she's done a good job of that so far at 204 kills. She's had no shortage of good support in this battle, and you can see that the Skaven are really struggling with leadership. And even these Death Squad that came in from Aboy's army here still get ripped apart. Now, the Plague Monks are coming in a little bit later from this flank, hoping to get in and give some support. They're working their way around to try and outflank the Druchi infantry, and Azulus actually takes the lead here for the moment. And you can see that as the fight drags on here, look at this, the Assassin just gets absolutely pooped on by the Death Hag, and then all these units are very good against infantry, and the Sisters of Slaughter actually the Witch Elves actually carry a bonus versus infantry, which really sucks for the Skaven here because a lot of their units are infantry, whether they're chaff or decent infantry. And you can see it's taken a while for Desert Fox to get these Plague Monks over here, and in the meantime, the Skaven army just got absolutely eaten alive by the Druchi, with the exception of the Rat Ogres, and even those now are losing their leadership because of the loss of Skaven leadership here. Queek is rampaging, the Doomflayers are rampaging, and it's limiting what they can accomplish here. So you can see that they now get terrified as well. I believe that's coming, yeah, it's coming off of the Death Hag, so that's a very nice combination of terror into the midst of all the rampage and everything else as well. So another really nice burning head here. It does kind of just clip right across, does a lot of damage to one of the Plague Monks. The other Plague Monk immediately rampages. And so the Supreme Sorceress is really doing some yeoman's work here, some fantastic work, just destroying Skaven. But I have to give Desert Fox credit here. This is a fight that he actually got quite a bit of work done. I mean, if you look at the score here, despite facing some pretty uphill challenge here against these Sisters of Slaughter, I mean, look at the scoreboard. It's not that lopsided between him and Azula, so, I mean, props to him. Props to him for not giving up, and he's still not giving up. He's continuing to bring his units back together and attempting to fight this. You can see the Rat Ogres charging back in. They should be able to get him a few points, though their leadership is not going to last alone in these fights. So we'll kind of just see how the Skaven play this. We're going to see a summon of Plague Monks. This is a solid summon. Should help them get a few more points on the board, as Plague Monks are a pretty good damage dealer, and none of the Druchi stuff over here has a lot of armor. The Sisters of Slaughter do have some physical resistance, which kind of equates to armor against an enemy that does deal physical attacks. And you can see here that a few hundred points definitely coming on the board with the help of those Plague Monks that were summoned. And now you're going to see a Vortex spell here from the Skaven, though it is just on the hair of range for these Sisters. I do think it hits a few of them, and it does help the Skaven get a few more points here. But at this point, Azulus is actually pulling away a little, but again, a respectable showing for sure here, by all accounts, for Desert Fox, because this was an uphill fight for Queek and his Skaven. And like I said, all things considered, I think they did a pretty fantastic job of trying to stay in this one. that Plague Priest with those summons and the Vortex there trying to pull things together. Queek just can't hold his leadership together. And this is one of the downsides of Queek. I mean, he's just getting crapped on by these Death Hags. He cannot handle these large targets very well. Versus, like, if that had been Skrulk, Skrulk definitely can slow down a lot more of this. He would have had his Rod of Corruption and his Liber Bubonicus, which would have punished any blobbed up group of sisters. Now, it's hard to say what you're going to expect from the Druchi because they do have quite a few options in how to deploy their forces. So I'm not saying that it's just super easy to counter-build the Druchi with the Skaven per save. And this was an interesting match, to say the least. So props to Desert Fox. His forces are pretty much knocked out of the fight. He does have an assassin out here that's trying to conceal itself. But here's where the rubber's going to hit the road. These Sisters of Slaughter and Witch Elves are now going to be facing off against Blood Knights and Vargheist. And this is a fight that doesn't bode well for them. However, we have an interesting situation on the leaderboard. Azulus has built up a commanding lead over Rizuri, and Rizuri is excellently positioned to be the last man standing, but he's got to get enough points or else he won't get over the hump, and Azulus will carry this battle regardless of potentially being killed by the vampire counts. And when I say potentially, I mean, to me, looking at the battlefield right here, this is basically a certainty. There is no way that the Druchi dig themselves out of this with just Sisters of Slaughter and a Supreme Sorceress and a pretty beat-up Death Hag. And on top of that, you can see that Queek has come back for one last go here, but he's going to be quickly destroyed by Vargheist as they dive down onto him. And Queek himself has some armor, but he won't be able to take that charge, and his assassin certainly doesn't have the armor to take that type of fight. So this is an interesting matchup, and one of the things that I like about Total War Warhammer 2 is that there are so many units in this game. I think that was a Wind of Death being lined up until Vlad got hit and it canceled. Let's see what kind of damage, if any, Vlad's taking here. Really not any. Even though he's getting whipped by a whole bunch of Sisters of Slaughter and Witch Elves and a Death Hag, like, he's just not taking the damage. And at this point, you can see Azulus is managing to get some points. He is causing some damage to the vampire counts here, and this is pretty important. He's got to get all the damage he can because Rizuri is quickly picking up points, and it's been mostly unanswered. You can see yet here comes the Wind of Death. It does catch just a few sisters, gets Rizuri a few points, but nothing massively significant there as not a whole lot of units left. And Wind of Death really does best whenever it can get a hold of a tighter packed blob. The Supreme Sorceress has got to get out of here pretty quick because these Blood Knights will put an end to her in a big hurry. So Azula's still managing to get a few points here and there. These Vargheists need to be redirected onto the Supreme Sorceress ASAP. So this is a bit of a miss micro here, or at least a late micro on the part of Rizuri, because this Supreme Sorceress can still get some work done, especially if she has some magic left, and that's going to be the real question here. Assassin's Trophy was left here from the Skaven Assassin that was lingering around from a boy. Let's just see what happens here. Another Vampire Summon coming in. Yeah, here comes the Vargheist, and they are after the Supreme Sorceress. And you can see she is going to try and flee this one, but now she's caught, and as a last-ditch effort, she's going to get one last burning head in here, and it is going to land fairly nice. Fairly nice, and it's going to come through some of these vampire units, but she is going to be toast herself. But, again, Azulus has built up about a 5,000 point lead almost. And so Rizuri's got a lot to overcome there, and this is actually going to be a fairly close call here in the end on who is going to potentially win this. Now, Aboy has a Skaven Slave unit out here, and you can see that there's a Death Hag, and look at this, another Fireball. So very nice job by Azulus, getting rid of that magic, getting everything he can get. And interesting, a Rampage there from the Fury of Cain, trying to help out the Supreme Sorceress heading into combat from the Death Hag, but you know, it can't hold up against Blood Knights regardless, no matter what the Fury of Cain is. And you can see now just a Skaven Slave unit out there in the distance. I'll fast forward through it, and yeah, it's going to be close. It's going to be close here. Rizuri, little less than 4,000 points away. He's going to be last man standing with a pretty good chunk, but you can see the Skaven Slave's going to rout before he can really even contact it. So no extra points for Rizuri, and he actually isn't able to carry the battle. He comes up short. Albeit, you know, not by a whole lot, but so Azulus wins this one without being the last man standing, and in this case, without being the last woman standing. in terms of the Druchi army that he brought. So is an interesting army, by the way. This is really cool from Azulis to see in a FFA, just because Sisters of Slaughter to me are an interesting unit. Witch Elves are also a very niche unit, and then the Supreme Sorceress just did a fantastic job. I mean, fire magic is really good in an FFA because Burning Head can be directed basically across any blob you want. Piercing Bolts are also really good. Fireball is very helpful, so fire magic is extremely useful in an FFA scenario. Sith Desert Fox, I mean, that was a heck of a job, man. That was a heck of a job you did up against a very difficult to overcome Druchi army here. And interesting idea to have this much skirmishing. It's just too much against the vampires. I love all the Skaven skirmishing units. And yeah, you do have some units here to try and help hold back an enemy, but the vampires are supremely good at shutting down missiles. And they have to be, because they're an all-rush faction, so that is their specialty. And a lot of people really kind of think the vampires suck these days, and it's partly because of, you've had power creep with all these other factions moving in. Vampires definitely do not suck. They may not be the top faction in multiplayer these days, but they are a capable faction in the right hands. And if someone overestimates their desire to skirmish here, the vampires are one of the first factions that are going to put you in your place for that. Because of summons, because of direwolves, fellbats, Vargheist, black knights with lances and barding, blood knights, black coach, Vargulf. I can sit here and name off unit after unit after unit that is fantastic at shutting down skirmishing. And so it just becomes a huge danger to you whenever you're going to bring this skirmishing stuff. But if Skaven don't skirmish versus the vampire, they're never going to win that fight in a melee either, right? The Skaven don't have the leadership to pull out an all-melee brawl with vampire counts. There are a few factions that can probably do that. Druchi can probably do it. Lizardmen can probably do it. There's a few other factions that can hold their leadership together well enough in a small elite melee to defeat the vampire counts that way in certain scenarios, but Skaven is not going to be one of them. And so I feel like that the Skaven have to do a good job of trying to balance how they're going to shoot at the vampires and what they're going to shoot, and making sure that there's plenty of protection. I think rat ogres become a very important choice, as much as it kind of sucks that their leadership isn't great. Probably a help hit abomination and some rat ogres are necessary to help hold back vampires, because you're going to need some pretty significant armor piercing and anti-large, as well as the speed to help stop some of the vampire disruption. But it's a difficult call. What do you all think in the Skaven versus vampire matchup? I don't know. Personally, I feel like the vampires kind of own that matchup. But that's just me. I'm curious to see what you all think. Do Skaven have good options versus the vampires? Maybe this is something I need to go look at in Felcon's army guide and see what he thinks. I feel like the vampires are really good at countering the Skaven for the most part. There maybe not. Maybe there's things that I'm not taking account of here that I would have to get through, but it does say now. Clearly, the Skaven do have the capability to Lord Snipe, and done right, they could give the vampires fits if they snipe your Lord early in the battle and leave you without leadership or magic. So they do have that. They do have that for sure. Anyway, appreciate Desert Fox sending this in. Appreciate all his years of being a part of the channel, and then all the other players who participated here. Thank you. Hope you all enjoyed the replay today. I will, I think, be streaming tonight. Go on my channel if you want to be a part of it and look for the stream there on the tab. I'll try and link it in here if I already have it set up. And we'll be playing some more Morathi late game Madness campaign. I want to finish that one up eventually. It'll end up being a pretty epic finish. Coming later this week, more Grom campaign is headed your way. I think I'm going to go over to Shogun 2 and later this week record some historical Total War footage in Shogun 2. And then I have a couple other things in mind. We'll see what we can get to. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I will see you all soon with some more content.